Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to the first episode of my Minecraft Survival Let's Play. The world I'm in right now is the one that I'm going to be doing it on, and this has actually been my own personal survival world for about 5 years now. And I've actually been planning to do an LP on this world for quite a bit of time at this point. So here I am, finally getting around to doing it. But because this world is so developed, I thought that it would be good to first make a world tour video. That way you guys could get familiar with everything instead of me just kind of jumping right into the LP. And while I'm doing it, you're kind of like, whoa, wait, what's that? What's that? Hold on, back up. Oh, God. Okay, you know what? Nighttime isn't worth it. So anyways, if you're interested in checking out this world tour, I'd highly recommend it, and I'll link it in the description for you. And one last thing before we get into it here, this world is currently in 1.13.2, so I don't have the villager, bee, or nether updates. And if you don't know why, I explain my reasoning in the world tour video. You should check it out. I explain a lot there. Okay, so to begin with here, I thought I might first cover everything that I've been working on since I made the world tour video. And I've been sticking to the more grindy and less interesting things because I obviously don't want to do a bunch of cool stuff without showing it off in a video. And this project here is definitely the one that I've been working on the most. To recap, this project is the full clearing of each perimeter for my beacons down here, and then clearing out all the blocks in between the bedrock and replacing it with black glass. And yeah, it's a massive project. And I try to chip away at it all the time to space out all of the work. And yeah, this is what I've been working on. Just a bunch of hours of speed mining and placing black glass. And a couple of tears shed also because I broke one of my mending picks. And 2 regular picks. Ooh, something spooky's coming at me in the distance. Yeah! Look at that dynamic lighting, isn't that pretty? I also threw down some carpet on the perimeter of some of the beacons, just so I can see where they all lined up. And I might end up moving some of the beacons around just so that I can utilize the space more efficiently and the edges don't overlap as much. And next up on the agenda here, I wanted to come over to the backside of my tree farm and show you guys this area up here. And this is a space where I can plant about, there you go, 2 stacks of saplings. And then, deforestate the area later. It gets me about, I don't know, maybe 8 stacks of logs, depending on the trees. But the whole idea behind this space is just additional tree farming in case the normal tree farm isn't cutting it. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I totally forgot to mention it in my world tour video, and I wanted to quickly just follow up and cover it, but it ends up working out anyways because this project has been needing a lot of work anyways, and that's the first thing that I'm going to tackle today. So what I'd like to do is terraform the cliff sides all around this plot here, and you can see that to begin with I just put out a little bit of cobblestone to extend the footprint and just get the general shape for this thing. But now I need to actually build it. So what I'm going to be doing is pretty much the same design that I've done everywhere else around my world. For instance, it's over here on either side of the river. And it's also over here by my farms. And I even have extended it over into this middle section here where I'm starting to figure out what this area is going to look like. And the basic concept is to sort of curve the cliff inward so it has a nice concave look to it. And then at the top, you put a lip of material that gives it a nice little edge. And depending on your material choice, it can kind of take on a different look. So for instance, this snow cliff here is more of just a stone cliff, and then there's snow and ice dripping down the side. But then if we look at this one, on the other hand, this is more of a, I guess, generic cliff, just stone and dirt. And I decided to, from the lip, do a sort of gradient of materials. And I'm not really sure what that's supposed to look like, but it looks cool and I like it. And seeing that this is the design that I use for all of my farming biome here, it makes the most sense to use that same design over at the tree plot here because it's basically an extension of all that. So yeah, let's get started here. I'm going to begin in this little section over here. And the first order of business is I got to do a bunch of digging to clear out all of this material that is sort of bulging out underneath the cobblestone lip. And this is about where I'm going to leave it. I tend to enjoy doing a more additive process rather than subtractive. So instead of just chiseling away at this mountain until it looks the way that I want, I prefer just kind of leveling the surface and then building it up the way that I want it. I'm having to do a bit of a sketchy thing. The beacon range doesn't quite reach over there, so I just like ender pearl within range of this one, and then quickly ender pearl back, and just do as much as I can within the 13 seconds that I have available. Okay, so now that that's done, I can basically build up the cliff the way that I want it now. And I'm going to start by using dirt because the whole bottom of the cliff is dirt anyways, so it's an easy thing to work off of. And so all I'm really doing here is just filling in dirt in front of the wall. And then after I finish, I kind of step back and then I look at the edge and I go, okay, how's the concave curve going to relate? So I started to just throw blocks down and get a feel for that right here. And the thing to think about is as this lip goes around, it sort of bends inwards and then comes outwards, and it has this sort of natural flow to it. And when you incorporate this this indent, basically, it's also going to cross with that and make all these cool designs and shapes, and that's part of what you want to experiment with here. Come on, buddy. Move out of the way. I got some work to do. Dang it. All right, you guys ready for this? 360 no scope. Where's he at? Yeah. That was way up. Meet your maker. Yeah. Crap. Yeah.
Boom.
But anyways, moving right along here, I think this right here is a pretty good example of what I'm trying to talk about. So the cliff itself curves inwards, but when the lip also goes in, you sort of have to express the difference by putting it sideways. So you can see that it goes from here inwards, and then eventually when it comes out to here, it'll go back outwards. And as the cliff side goes and the lip sort of bobs in and out, you get a cool little effect. I just wanted to stop real quick and say that I am just talking here. I think that terraforming can be very different for each person, and there's not really a one-size-fit-all strategy. Rather, it's just something that you experiment with on your own, and you get a feel for it, what you like, and how you understand it. I am just attempting to break down the way that I like doing it, and the way that I've found success, and if you get something out of it, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. The way that I see it is everything I show and talk about is just to throw out there, and people can do what they choose with it, but my personal hope is that my projects can at least a little bit inspire and excite people to play the game and just do cool things. You know, that's all it ever is. Have you guys ever noticed that like if you look at the dirt texture, there are all these, you know, brown dirt colors, but then there's like this really nice cream color right here. And now whenever I look at dirt, it's like, it's not dirt, it's like creamy, it's nice. I don't know, is that me? Have I been placing dirt too long? Am I losing it? But anyways, I suppose this is probably a good time to take a break anyways. And yeah, this is what I've got so far. And as I've been working on it, I've noted a couple of little tips that might help you. Like, for example, be aware of the more flat spaces you can do, which give a more steep effect. And then by contrast, you have the more sort of frequent formations that look kind of pyramid-like. And I think it's important to experiment with the balance of each of these elements. My personal strategy here is to find a nice medium, so I'm not really using too much of either. But there's certainly merits to emphasizing one component over the other. You know, like if I do a huge flat wall, that can really emphasize a steep ledge. Another thing that sounds kind of redundant, but can actually be really helpful is just reminding yourself what you're trying to make it look like. Because as you do stuff like this, especially on a larger scale, you can sort of just zone out and start placing blocks and forget what you're doing. So just take a quick step back every once in a while and look at what you're doing and really think about what it is that you want to achieve. And on the topic of taking a step back, the last thing that's important to understand is context. This cliffside is not a huge focal point at my base. You know, there are plenty of other things that are going to grab people's attention before they might even look at it. So I don't prioritize making this look as perfect as I might for other things. And that's not to say that I shouldn't do a good job, but it's a good reminder to keep me from tinkering with it for hours. But that's enough talking. We're at the stage now where I'm going to start throwing in the other materials and building up the top lip. To begin with here, I'm just going to start throwing down some blocks and bulking it up a little bit. I like to keep a healthy variety of blocks. So, you know, I've got a little bit of andesite over here, then some stone, then I'll bring it back to cobblestone. And yeah, that's just the way that I like it, but you can certainly do it however you'd like. Sometimes it's useful to build up a little bit of scaffolding, especially for one that's a little bit taller than a lot of the other cliffs I've done, just so I can reach. And when you're at this point, the next step is to just start kind of building up shapes. So you want the lip to sort of stick out, so kind of build things downwards vertically, and try and do something that you would normally think would look a little bit uncomfortable, just kind of like go to town with it. So like, oh, this is going to go all the way down here, you know, and you might want to end up changing that later, but just kind of throw things down and see how it looks and just experiment with that. But the biggest thing is I like to have the blocks overhanging the underside of the cliff. I prefer doing this part a lot more randomly because I think it comes out in a lot more natural way, but there's certainly merits to doing it in whatever method you feel works best. And yeah, now you just go to the top and pretty much do the same thing. All right, so this is basically what we're looking at right now, and let's give it a first look and see if I did it right. Oh yeah, that looks great. Yeah. There are some things that I want to tweak, you know, like there's this weird gap space and this like weird zigzag shape that just doesn't quite look right. I like throwing in slabs as well because they really add a nice extra level of detail. And certainly you could do it even better in the future update where you have like actual stone slabs and andesite slabs. Another idea that I'm throwing out there is maybe dig into it a little bit and kind of break up the pattern basically that you have. Introduce a little bit of variation, you know, like maybe this goes up into a little crevice here. You know, something kind of like that. It's not really that big of a difference in the grand scheme of things, but it just introduces a little bit more variation so it doesn't all look like the same thing. And yeah, pretty much the last step here is to throw in some granite underneath the stone lip and then mix in some coarse dirt as well with the sort of plain, boring dirt cliffside. Make it look a little bit more interesting and stuff like that. So I'm going to take care of that, clean up everything, and I'll be right back. Here we are. This is what the finished product is looking like. With the granite, I just followed the shape of the lip and basically just did an outline of the underside. And then for the coarse dirt, I did a gradient. So it's thick near the top. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of subtle. But then as it goes down, it starts to thin out. And near the bottom, it's mostly just regular dirt. And even though it's a very subtle difference, adding in the coarse dirt gives a lot more texture and interest because, as you probably noticed earlier, it doesn't look that great when it's just a single boring texture, especially dirt. And that's a pro tip with building. If you have a large space that's just one material, it makes it look 10 times better just by mixing in another block. I've also just, you know, been doing my rounds, kind of picking out things that don't look right, adding in some more slabs, mining away blocks. Oh, that doesn't look right. I don't like that. You guys get the idea. And then finally, I also came up here and did a little bit more work just cleaning this up, throwing some slabs down to smooth out the jaggedness of all these blocks. And I even decided to throw in a little bit of coarse dirt just to do a little transition. I don't know. I don't have to have a reason for everything that I do. I just have to make it look pretty, right? But I think this is a good stopping point for this project today. And I plan to work on it more off camera in the near future. I do still have a good chunk of work to do. I've got this whole section and the pathway going up. This whole side still needs to be done, all the way wrapping around to here. And then if we go over to the other side, this whole chunk also needs to be done. Ah, man. Well, I just realized that I also missed this thing in the world tour, which kind of sucks. But I guess it's not that big of a deal because it isn't really much of anything and doesn't really need that much attention. But I'm going to go over it real quick for you for the sake of completion. So it's just a simple flower farm, and you can put it in different biomes to get different flowers out of it. In this case, I put it in a swamp so I can get the blue orchids for light blue dye. And the way that this works is you just grab a little bit of bone meal, come over here, activate it, and then you just start spamming it. And the pistons will displace the grass blocks, so it'll deroot the flowers and grass, and then you can just keep bone mealing it as long as you have the bone meal. I do plan to pretty this thing up a bit at some point in the future, and I'd also like to build one in each biome with different flowers available, but that's a fairly low priority project at the moment, and I probably won't get around to it for a while. So I thought it'd be nice to do a quick little project here. And one of the things I love doing around my world is adding in hidden ender chests. I've got one here, for example. I've got another one right here. And yeah, I have a little hidden passageway right here. And if we go inside, I've got a hidden ender chest right here as well. The point is that they are littered all over the place around here. And I like doing this, number one, because they're fun and they're pretty easy to build. But more importantly, ender chests are great for storing away items in shulker boxes. I use it all the time for transporting items and whatnot. And it's just really convenient to have them close by wherever I go around my base. But there are plenty of places around my world that still could use one. Like, for example, this area right over here, my bulk storage units. And so my plan right now is to put one in real quick and show you how it's done. So the first order of business is to figure out where I want to put it. And I'm thinking about somewhere in the center, so it's pretty much equidistant from all of the stations. And I was looking at this button here and figured, why not put it right there? And so what'll happen is when you press the button, this block here will be retracted downwards and the ender chest will be exposed. And potentially if I wanted to add in like a crafting table, which probably won't be necessary, or anything else, I can always just put something adjacent to it. And yeah, I kind of just built it. Like I said, these things are pretty easy to build. So traditionally, you could just power the piston to extend it, and then when you want to bring it back down, you unpower it. But because we're using a button, it's a little bit trickier. And my solution was to have the piston spit out the block by sending it a one-tick pulse. And this can be achieved in a number of ways. In this case, I chose to have a dispenser drop a bucket of water, which the observer would then detect and produce that pulse. And there you have it, all polished and taken care of. Oh man, I just love these things so much. They're great. There are other methods for putting them together depending on what you're doing, and I do plan to build more on camera in the future, so be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I think I'd like to wrap things up now for today. I'm not exactly sure how long I want these videos to be, but I think that 20 minutes is a pretty good number to start out with. And that's not to say that there aren't plenty of other things that I'm going to have to experiment with and work out so I can improve the series over time. And And of course, if you have any suggestions or criticisms, I highly welcome that. Again, my main goal here is just to inspire and excite people to play the game. And it's also to just share my own personal love for it. So if there's anything I can do to improve that process, then it matters a lot to me. But anyways, that is it for this video. Take it easy, and I'll see you next time.